Before time learned to count its days, before light had a name or shadow a boundary, there was only a profound, silent stillness. From that stillness, the word was spoken not in sound, but in pure being. And the first thing this word did was divide. Let there be light. In that single utterance, contrast was born. Light and darkness became the first twins of existence, two realities forever bound, each giving meaning to the other. But here's the secret: light was never the enemy of shadow, it was its context. Without contrast, even the most brilliant light would be invisible. This was the first principle of creation: light defines what is true, but darkness defines the freedom to choose. And as long as choice exists, the shadow cannot die. From this divine essence, the first beings were shaped, the radiant ones, creatures of pure consciousness and flame. They weren't slaves to the light, they were its perfect mirrors, reflecting its purity. But one of them, the most luminous and articulate, became intoxicated with his own reflection. He looked at his brilliance and thought, if the source shines so perfectly through me, then I am the source itself. And so began the rebellion of mirrors. A host of radiant ones followed him, enchanted by the dream of self-rule. They mistook their independence for their identity, their echo for the original sound. When they turned away from the word, their light no longer flowed, it froze. They became what we now call the fallen, not destroyed, not erased, but suspended between being and nothingness. They became symbols of our own deepest temptation, the will to define truth for ourselves apart from truth itself. This immediately raises a question that has echoed through the cosmos ever since: if the source is all-powerful, why not just make the rebels? Why tolerate their deception? The answer is profound. To destroy them would be to destroy meaning itself. If you erase the freedom to choose wrongly, you also erase the freedom to love genuinely. If you end all contrast, you end all understanding. So, the source, call it God, call it light, chose a different path: education instead of execution. Rather than eliminating deception, it allowed deception to expose itself. This wasn't a sign of divine weakness, it was an act of supreme divine confidence. The Creator trusted truth so completely that it was willing to let lies compete with it, convinced that, in time, awareness would always outgrow illusion. This is the core reason why God cannot simply kill Satan. Doing so would betray the very freedom that makes goodness possible in the first place. As eons unfolded, the fallen moved through creation not as horned monsters with pitchforks, but as subtle currents of thought, as half-truths dressed in stunning beauty. Their strategy was brilliant, not to fight the light, but to imitate it. They whispered into the minds of creation, you can be your own center. You can shape reality to fit your desires. And humanity listened, because the lie was flattering, and flattery is the oldest and most powerful spell. But the light did not retaliate with fire and fury. Instead, it entered humanity itself as conscience, as empathy, as that quiet, resilient voice of reason inside every soul. The real war was never between cosmic gods and demons out there in the heavens. It has always been fought between clarity and confusion within the human heart. Every myth of angels and devils you've ever heard is just a record of that inner struggle. Our world became the grand theater for this hidden education. Each age, each empire, each scientific discovery was a new experiment in discernment. Would we, as humans, learn to see beyond appearances? Would we finally recognize imitation light for what it was? Sometimes, we did. Prophets rose, reformers awoke, and teachers spoke truth in parables. For a little while, the fog would thin. But then, deception would evolve. It would rebrand, repackage itself, and be reborn in new, more appealing ideals. If greed was exposed, it returned wearing a mask of ambitious self-improvement. If tyranny was condemned, it returned disguised as a noble ideology promising security. Time itself became both our battlefield and our classroom. The purpose was never domination, but revelation. Every falsehood, if left to ripen, would eventually reveal its own inner rot. The Creator waited with infinite patience, knowing that premature judgment only breeds fear, but patient truth cultivates wisdom. As the parable says, let both grow together until the harvest. Eventually, humanity is meant to see that the entire cosmos is a mirror. Every act of cruelty we commit, and every act of compassion we show, simply reflects our own level of understanding of the light. The shadow cannot exist without a light to cast it. That is its secret, undeniable dependency. So, the light doesn't need to destroy the darkness. It merely needs to continue shining until even the shadow remembers that it, too, came from radiance. This is the slow, steady redemption of all creation, not through a sudden, violent act, but through a gradual, dawning recognition. When a lie finally knows itself as a lie, it collapses under its own weight. When pride sees its own emptiness, it kneels without any command. When the fallen remember their true origin, they stop falling. The end of evil isn't its destruction, it's its awakening. Imagine a meeting beyond time. The shadow stands before the light and asks, "Why? Why didn't you destroy me when you had the chance? You let me wound, deceive, and cause so much pain." And the light replies, "Because to kill you would have been to kill my lesson. To end you would have ended choice itself. I needed creation to see you, to understand the true cost of separation." Now, finally, they know the difference between a reflection and the source. The shadow trembles, realizing it was never an equal opponent. It was an unwilling teacher, a tool for contrast. The light continues, "You were the question that made the answer absolutely necessary." At that moment, the shadow dissolves not in agony, but in pure comprehension. For the first time since the rebellion, it sees itself in the light, not against it. And that seeing is its end. In the final age, the world doesn't end in fire, but in understanding. Every secret steps into the daylight. Every disguise evaporates. What remains is reality itself, unfiltered, unashamed, and whole. Some scriptures call this judgment, but this judgment is simply clarity. When all things are known as they truly are, deception has nowhere left to hide. Truth doesn't slay lies, it just renders them irrelevant. This is divine justice, not revenge, but revelation. But this grand, cosmic story isn't just about politics between gods. It's deeply personal. Every single one of us carries this same paradox inside, the freedom to align with the light of our conscience, or to fabricate our own shadows. The greatest spiritual warfare is the one that happens internally, in the quiet moments when you choose integrity over illusion, honesty over convenience. Every honest act is an exorcism. Every kind word disarms the darkness. Evil is not conquered by hating it, it is dissolved by understanding it. This is why the true mark of an enlightened person is peace, not fury. Those who dwell in truth no longer fear the contrast, they understand its purpose. As long as consciousness exists, contrast will be possible. But the destiny of all contrast is resolution, like a grand symphony finally returning to its beautiful home note. When the final echo fades, what remains is the profound silence of complete comprehension. The universe stands complete not as a battlefield, but as a conversation that has finally concluded. The fallen remember their source. The light, having proved its invincibility through patience, fills all things once again. And the voice that began the entire story speaks once more, "Let there be light." But this time, it's not a command. It is an invitation. And the whole of the cosmos answers, "There is light." This is why God cannot kill Satan. Not because evil is immortal, but because truth is eternal. To destroy darkness would be to fundamentally misunderstand its purpose. Darkness exists to reveal the true radiance of light. Deception exists to teach us discernment. And pride exists to show us the quiet, unshakable strength of humility. When truth has finally finished its work, the lie simply has nowhere left to stand. The story closes not with destruction, but with reconciliation. The truest power doesn't eliminate its opposition, it illuminates it, until it understands. The power of truth over darkness is not the strength to kill, but the patience to reveal. Because in the end, every shadow is just a part of the light that has been misunderstood. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. If this resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more explorations into the big questions. See you next time.